Hello, Professor. I'm going to go over my assignment one game that I made. I chose to make that instead of the lateral thinking exercise. So how I go about this is I will go over the rubric top down all the way to the bottom, and then I will go over a more detailed description of the game. But first things first, I want to go over kind of what the game's about and the level design. Um, so what this is it was a medical person who was tasked to bring organs from one hospital to the next. As he was doing this, though, he was attacked by thieves or enemies, as you would like to call it. Um, and what they did is they took the organs from him. So um, what would happen is the man that he was bringing them to was really in need of it. If he doesn't have those organs, he will die. So what the medical person decided to do was take matters into his own hands because there's not much time left for the person. He decided to go out and collect the organs for himself and to bring back to the hospital. Um, so as you can see with my little level design here, I have a legend showcasing all of the things within the level. My player starts here on the left side, along with my trapezoids representing the enemies, where they'll be placed at for the player to fight. My little diamonds here are the health pickups that the player can go around and pick up for health if he's damaged. The red squares are the platforms that the player can jump onto in order to get around. The uh, crossed out circle zone is a death zone, so when the player goes into those open holes, he will then die, having to either restart the level or going back to the main menu. And then the blue square rectangles are the organs that you have to go about to collect. So first things first, within the rubric, um, the video game can be completed in at least 30 seconds, and there is a win or loss condition. I will go ahead and showcase the win and loss condition first. As you can see, I have my level here. It's the exact same layout as what I just showcased. So if I go ahead and click play, as you can see, I can go around and move. If I die, it will then go into the U lost screen where I can have the option to either play again or go to the main menu. And I also have the person that you were supposed to save here on the left, kind of making the player feel a little guilty, like, oh man, I should have grabbed those organs in order to, let the guy live. As you can see, he kind of died there, and he's asking, why did you let this happen? So if you go ahead and click play again, as you can see, the enemies can go around and kill me. When we go into this zone, it will do the exact same thing. It'll pick up the U-Lost screen and just the same old thing. You can go around and take damage. But if I go ahead and kill these enemies, and kind of go around and collect these organs. Ooh, almost fell there. Ooh, had one life left. If I go ahead and collect the last organ, it will then transition into U1 screen, where you successfully got all the organs that you needed in order for the player to live, or the medical person in the hospital to live. As you can see, he is saying thank you for saving my life, and he's all happy and jolly. So that is the win-loss condition for the game. Um, the game contains at least 10 enemies slash obstacles. As you can see, I have about 5 enemies here in the game that the player can fight. I have 2 health pickups also throughout the level, along with my 3 obstacles, or 3 organs, for the player to go around and collect. in order to complete his objective. He has the platform slash walls, obstacles kind of there to help him out to get to the objective. The next one is the game art requirement, background art, at least 2 frames of animation, and 1 original artwork. So everything that I have created in terms of UI, assets, etc., sprites, have all done by me. The only thing that is not done by me is the game background art. That is something that I just looked up online to find because it was just kind of save time. It's kind of a city environment with thieves. It's kind of representing like, oh, it's a city, lots of thieving going on, stealing, etc. So that is where the background art is from for the level. But other than that, everything is stuff that I made myself. In terms of animations, I have quite a bit of animations. For buttons, I have a transition scene animation as well. And then in terms of player animations, I have 3. I have a player idle animation, a player jump animation, and then a player run animation. In terms of the enemies, I chose not to do any animations for him because all he's doing is patrolling. And then when he gets in range, or when the player gets in range of him, he will then shoot the player. Game has 5 different sound effects for 5 different game events. In terms of sound effects, I have actually quite a bit. Um, I have at least 6 sound effects that the game will use, and then I have a bunch of audio for music and win-loss conditions, stuff like that. So I have a object here for when the enemy get hit by the player. It will then kind of do a little oof sound for the representing that the enemy is getting hurt. I also have a gun sound for the player and the enemy, so that way when they are both shooting the gun, it will represent, oh, the gun's being shot. I also have a sound effect for when it hits the walls or the platforms. It will also make a sound as well. If the player loses the game and dies, it will go into a losing sound effect like want, 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 just kind of upsetting, and it'll transition into the loss scene. I have a pickup sound effect for when the player picks up the organs and the heart pickups. I also have a sound effect for when the player gets hurt to represent like just the different sound effects between the enemy and the player to give it more of a realistic feel. And then I just have a bunch of audio for background music, main menu music, etc. So I kind of go ahead and showcase the audio in the game. As you can see, I have game audio going, and then if I shoot the bullet, there will be a sound effect for the bullet hitting the enemy. And then if I hit the wall, it will also play that sound effect. If I do a health pickup, it will do that effect. And then if the player gets hit, it will do a sound effect. Ooh, almost died. But those are the sound effects for the game and the music. So that is kind of it for the overall kind of basic material. So now I'll go over in a more bigger detail of the game. So first things first, I'll start with my different scenes in the folder. I like to have everything organized and labeled just to kind of help figure out where everything is. So I have a main menu screen where if the player would like to start here, they can. If I click play, there will be the save organs title, play button, about button, and a quit button for if the player wants to quit. If I click the about button, it will then transition into another scene called about controls. So what this is, it kind of gives the player a little description of what the game's actually about. Like what is their goal by playing this game, what do they have to do. As you can see, it showcases the organs, like okay, now I gotta go out and get these back in order for the person to be saved. I have the controls here, left and right for A and D, left click to shoot, space bar to dump and then press it again to double jump. I also have a main menu button here for the player to go back to main menu. So that is the main menu section. The win is pretty much the same thing. The only difference is it has a play again button and a main menu button. The lose is the exact same, and then just the about. The level is the most sophisticated one, obviously, because that is where all the action is happening. In terms of the UI layout, I just have 4 health hearts, and then I have the 3 organs up here in the top right, showcasing, oh, these must be collectibles within the game. I wonder what they are, kind of deal. Um, and then I just have a folder for the animations for the player, and then I have all the button animations, and then the transition scene animation from going to a full game screen to black, and then when it loads the next scene, it will go from black to white. I have a script folder for all of my scripts. That way it keeps track of the player scripts, the weapon scripts, the health scripts, pickups, etc. A sound folder here as well for the game where all of my sound objects are and all of my sound effects. A sprites folder for all of my player and enemy sprites and the different sprite animations. A UI folder showcasing all of my game UI for the background art, health art, organ UI, and then all of the button UI as well. So that is it for like the folders and the project scene view. And then I just have my prefabs here for all of my in-game pieces for if I want to bring in more. So in terms of this layout up here for the level, what I decided to do, let's see here if I can get it. Okay. I have just a overall script here for all the floors and the walls. That's just to help organize it, knowing where, okay, this is the floor, these are the walls, etc. I have an enemies object as well, having all the enemies in it. The platforms the same way, pickups and organs as well. And then just the 2 death zones where if the player would fall into these, it would showcase that he would die. So overall, that is the game that I created. Some of the issues that I did have with this, and actually as I was recording this as well, I discovered another bug. So I quickly tried to lateral think and figured out, okay, what do I need to do to fix this issue? So a lot of the issues that I had was creating the player bullet. What would happen is it would cause when the bullet would spawn, it would shoot the bullet upward, even though I have the correct function in it in order for it to shoot straight. For some weird reason, Unity code was not wanting to work. So what I quickly decided to do, instead of actually using the player movement script to do all of the work, I decided to quickly create a weapons script here, allowing the player to do all of the shooting and get the prefab in their exact same code, except it's a different script. And what it ended up happening is, for some weird reason, when I switched it to that, it started to work. It would shoot straight. It would damage the enemies with my player bullet script as well. So sometimes a quick thinking strategy that I like to use if the code's not working in the script for some weird reason, I quickly make a new one and start over and just kind of replug things in, see what's wrong and different. Sometimes that works for me. Another issue I also had that I had to quickly fix was the bullet would only shoot right. And instead of like when the player goes left, it would only shoot the opposite way. So what I had to quickly kind of do within my code is, instead of using a local.scalar, I used a transform.rotation, calculating just the entire game object itself, allowing both of it to rotate in the way that it's facing. And then the last like quick little lateral thinking bug that I had to quickly fix was the enemies actually. So what was happening with my enemies is when I was shooting them, it was taking in the account for all of the health for every single one. So they were all dying at the same time instead of just individually. So what I had to quickly do was go into my code and go ahead and quickly fix it. So I will go ahead and kind of quickly showcase this. Um, so what ended up happening is I had to switch the tags out for the trigger. So what I was doing is when I was doing the collision.tag enemy, it was accounting for every single enemy within the game, and so it was damaging all of them at once. So what I had to quickly do was compare the tag: is this bullet hitting this certain enemy? If so, then deal damage to it. What that allows is the enemy that I am shooting at to only take damage instead of every single one. So that was the last kind of lateral thinking strategy that I kind of had to do to quickly fix things, to quickly look up things. Um, so that is my assignment one game that I created. I will have the links to the social media in the description of the video and probably on the screen as well, allowing you to get to my various social media accounts. Thanks for watching and hope you enjoyed.